goes out and gets some intelligence that very few people can find. Anyway, Jack, thanks for coming and being on the show. I really so glad to get people to see you and to know how important you are to me. What do you see is really the source of why there's such a hatred toward the Jew?
Well, to begin with, as you point out, there's really only three combatants in this whole global conflict. There's the children of Israel, there are the followers of Jesus, and then there are the followers of Allah. And so it was Osama bin Laden himself who set the framework. He said that, this would be a war against the Crusader Christians, which is America. It's code for the United States, and against the Jews. The world hates Israel because Israel stands as the only reminder of the only physical reminder of God's dominion on the earth. Israel claims its land grant directly from God, directly from the Bible. That can't be allowed to stand. If it's accepted that their land grant is legitimate, then next follows that the Bible is legitimate. If the Bible is legitimate, then the Quran has to rewrite itself, and
when God made the original covenant with Abraham, the covenant that introduced the fact that he was going to choose them and create a nation from them, because all the other nations had tried to push the memory of God out of the way. He created a nation that would preserve the record about him. It's interesting that in that original covenant, in Genesis chapter 12, that God gave a promise of protection because God knew they were going to be hated. What's your take on that? Why were they called the chosen people?
Well, they were chosen. God chose them to reveal himself unto the nations. He says that very clearly in a number of places in Scripture. He makes a promise to the Jews that if they would walk in his statutes and keep his commandments, and they would be blessed beyond all the nations of the earth, and the rest of the world would look at them and from their blessings know that he is God.
Yeah, they'd know there is a God.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Conversely, he said, if you don't walk in my statutes, if you do break my commandments, then I'll make you a curse and a byword and a reproach and a hissing, so that the world will look at the incredible withdrawal of blessings upon you and still know that I am God. The ultimate point, what the Jews were chosen for, is to reveal God to us.
Isn't it amazing that whether they're in or out of fellowship with God or in relationship with God, they prove the existence of God?
Exactly. There is no explanation for Israel apart from God. There's never been another nation like Israel, in that they came back after 2,000 years of exile with their kosher dietary laws, their language, their from all different places where they've been scattered. There are no Amalekites or Jebusites, or even the Iraqis are not the Chaldeans of old. The Egyptians are not the Coptics of old. They're a new nation. Israel is exactly the same nation it was when it was dispersed by the Romans in AD 70.
It's a fascinating thing. We've talked about this. Remember, one of Napoleon's generals said or actually, he was a believer, one of his generals, and Napoleon asked him, he said, give me a proof that the Bible is true. And I understood he said, Your Majesty, the Jew.
Exactly.
He said, why? And he said, well, just look. And basically is going through what we're talking about right now.
Precisely. Israel is a miracle nation. The Jews are a miracle people.
Yes.
The Bible, Zephaniah promised that in the last days God would return unto them a pure language with which they could worship him again. And in 1948, Ben Yehuda revived classical Hebrew as the working language of Israel. Now, Hebrew was a dead language before Latin was developed. It's an amazing fulfillment of prophecy.
It's extraordinary.
Absolutely.
To go over there and to hear classical Hebrew as the language of the people. The world needs to know just how important it is to understand the supernatural factors behind all of this.
Absolutely. All Bible prophecy revolves around the existence of the state of Israel and the promises God made to Israel, both in at the time of Abraham, and then all of the Old Testament prophets. Each of them had made some reference to Israel in the last days, and everything revolves around them. In fact, everything about the last days begins, you can trace it, all of the various elements of Bible prophecy, to that exact same point in history, in 1948, when Israel was restored.